Have you ever played any sort of a randomizer or modified ally or enemy stat challenge run in any sort of different turn-based strategy RPG, usually things like Fire Emblem ROM hacks? Well, if you haven't, now's the time to start looking into trying one, because Deity 2 has just introduced a swath of new randomizer options that leads to a lot, and I mean a lot, of different potential custom campaigns. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including ongoing coverage for updates to some of our favorite turn-based strategy RPGs, such as, of course, Deity 2, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Also, very short news item, I am pausing my work on what is, at this point, an over hour-long review of the very recently released Together in Battle, which I absolutely adore, as you can probably tell from the fact that I have an over hour-long review of it. That project should have been out a few days ago, but things have been a little bit hairy on this side, so I'm working on getting that edited now. You should see that in the next couple of days. Go and check out Together in Battle on Steam if you are very curious about it. I highly recommend that you do. A little bit of a spoiler ahead of the review, and show it some love, as I wanted to get this review out in the initial release period, and I don't know how swiftly I will be able to do so. So if you could do that, that'd be great, and you can look for that review coming in the very near future. Now, with that said, to the business at hand. Deity 2 has just put out a new patch, which had a few different bug fixes and things like that, optimizations. Nothing overly major, nothing that I'm going to cover here, because what I actually want to cover is just how many different ways you can randomize a campaign and really introduce some fun challenges for yourself in this game now. So what is a randomizer? What are modifications, right? How can you apply different things to your campaign? If you're particularly new to this genre, we'll go through that very quickly. So what you can see here, when you go to start a new campaign, you have all your different difficulty modes that you can select, but then down here in the bottom right is the campaign modifiers. And if you've never checked this out, you definitely should if you're considering a second, third, fourth run of the game, because it definitely makes it a very different experience. So going in here, we can see we have a lot of different options. Recruit randomization is one that I always enjoy. I'm currently doing a random recruit run on my Steam Deck, which just changes the order that units join the party, right? So like I have Zanil as my Gwyn, for example. I have Lorai as my Reardon, and a bunch of different interesting options like that. So this can be a very fun way to play around with characters earlier on and see how they grow when they normally get recruited very late and you don't have as much time to play with them. It can also lead to some very interesting different changes in gameplay as well, because you don't necessarily have all the same classes that you would expect, which can make things fun as well. We of course have all these different modifications to aptitudes, bases, etc., etc. You know, how much do your enemies increase in stats as they level? What's the baseline stats of enemies? Same thing for your allies. How much XP and gold can you get? All that type of fun stuff. If the normal difficulty options don't quite meet what you're expecting from your time with the game, you can tweak some of these values and see if you can get something that's a little bit closer to the mark in terms of what you want. However, what we're here to talk about is all these randomization options. Some of these were already here, but a bunch of them were not, so I figured we'd go over them all together since I haven't really talked about them in depth prior. First off, random enemy classes. This one was already here. Much like for randomizing your character's classes, this changes the classes for all of the enemies across the entire campaign, which, as again, I'm sure you can imagine, can definitely make things pretty interesting. I've done this alongside my randomized player classes, and it led to some very interesting scenarios where I was not quite expecting there to be so many mages or so many archers or so many tanky units as there then wound up being. Oops, all empowerments is a fun one that I've been too scared to try yet. Just gives all unempowered enemies a random empowerment. So that's like, you know, bleeding you on hit, right? That type of thing, or being immune to certain types of status effects, or preventing you from using abilities within a radius of them. All that type of fun stuff. Every enemy will have this now, and it can obviously get very, very scary. Shuffled aptitudes, passives, and personals could definitely lead to some interesting scenarios. Aptitudes will make it so that all of your different growths are shuffled around. Passives and personals do the same thing, but these get swapped between the members of your army. So rather than Gwyn having, say, her passive where she gets armor when she gets a kill, maybe she'll wind up having increased mana regen from Arthur or something like that. Shuffled personals is the same thing, but just for your personal skills. Rather than Arthur having, like, Lunar Reeve, he could wind up having Saxon's Call the Storm, for example. And this can obviously lead to some very interesting different scenarios as well. Like, if I could have Arthur set up with Call the Storm, that could be pretty fun just because of how much mana regeneration he gets, as an example. Now, the three big ones here, and the ones that I think could wind up being very interesting, especially in conjunction with some of these other options, are random class passives, random class abilities, and random loot. These are our new additions. Random class passives, when changing class, units will receive a random passive. No idea what you're going to get, just swap to a different class. I'm assuming that this would work both between swapping between classes in the same tier and when promoting to a new class. I haven't had the chance to test this. This update just came out, so I wanted to talk about it. But I'm assuming that it would be when you swap between like classes in a tier as well, so you can try and get something that would work for you. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just on promotion, which could make things very brutal very, very quickly. Really, what you see is what you get, use what you find type stuff, which I love. And then the same thing for random class abilities. When changing class, units will receive random abilities. So what passive skills are you going to get? What active abilities are you going to be able to use? What combinations of active abilities are you going to use? Honestly, this one sounds the most interesting to me because you could get some really wacky stuff going on if you had the right options, right? Like, imagine if you could put Reaper's Teleport on some other type of class, like all the shenanigans you could pull off with that. Oh, it would be so much fun. There's so many cool things that you could do. You can wind up getting some great support builds going on, some absolutely deadly offensive classes. Like, get Divine Flow on, like, Benji as a Gallant, right? Like, that would be interesting. That would be very, very interesting. I would enjoy that quite a bit. Then, of course, we have random loot. When looting a chest or enemy, that loot will be randomized. This is probably the biggest question mark for me. You could definitely get some very interesting things very early, but I don't know if there's any sort of, like, loot tier, right? Like, can you just pull a cicada out of the first chest that you open, or is there a certain level of rarity to items internally that we're not privy to that will make them pull from a pool of that level of rarity? I'm assuming that's not the case, or it would be explained here, but maybe it is. I don't know. With that said, though, I really, really encourage you guys, if you're looking at potentially doing some more runs in Dark Deity 2, to try some of these randomizer options. I've been absolutely loving my recruit randomization and random enemy classes. That's been an absolute blast. I've been loving that run. I've been intending to do a video about it, and there's been so many different things that I've had to work on. It's kind of got lost in the sauce, just like, you know, my entire mental scape. But yes, I highly recommend that you check this stuff out. Oops All Empowerments is going to be insane. Probably won't be brave enough to do this on Demonic, but definitely on Deity. And then definitely the random class passes and random class abilities. Some of the fun builds you could wind up getting going on with this could be just so insane to see. It's basically like being able to open up the game's files, just build a custom character. Put a little bit of randomness in there to keep it gamified and keep you guessing as to what you're going to find and how you're going to be able to make it work. Huge hats off to the entire dev team making Dark Deity 2 at Sword and Axe for adding stuff like this. Hopefully we see some more features like this added over time to continue adding longevity to the game, to continue finding new ways to play and keep things fresh and spicy. And if we do, I will absolutely be covering it. For now, though, this is just a short video to talk about this update, make sure that people know about it, and potentially give it a shot. Again, look out for that huge Together in Battle review out sometime in the next couple of days with some news about some streams as well attached to it, so that should be a fun time. If you're all interested in seeing that or any of my other videos, do, of course, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And until the next one, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.